Most of the vocabulary used in ISO 45001 is taken from the common vocabulary of all management system standards. There is one standard, ISO 9000-2015, which is a kind of dictionary of all terms. Thus, terms such as organization are used in all management system standards. For example, ISO 9001 for quality, ISO 14001 for the environment, and mean the same thing. So here are the terms you need to know and how to interpret. Organization. The organization is the one that deploys the safety management system. But it is not just the organization in the legal sense of the term, but all the people who have the responsibilities that we will see later through the requirements. Interested parties. Also called stakeholders, these are the people and other organizations that have an influence within the safety management system. For example, they can be a state authority involved in safety, a control body, or subtractors. Worker. Any person carrying out an activity under the control of the organization. The ISO 45001 standard focuses specifically on the management of a system to guarantee the safety of workers. Legal and other requirements. This refers to the set of requirements, in addition to those cited in ISO 45001, with which the organization must comply on the one hand and chooses to comply on the other. For example, it must comply with the health and safety regulations for workers who depend on the regulations to which it is subject. This may depend on an occupation or jurisdiction within a country. It may also choose to comply with requirements that are not legally imposed on it, but may be imposed by a customer or by the organization's own choice to impose requirements on itself. ISO 45001 is an example of requirements voluntarily chosen by the organization. Occupational Health and Safety Management System. The notion of management system refers to the set of elements designing the response to the requirements of the standard. For example, safety policies, objectives, processes, procedures, auditing and reporting arrangements.
Les processus, les procédures, les dispositions d'audit et de remontée d'informations.
An important point. From now on, we will use the term management system to refer to the occupational health and safety management system. In the standard, whenever this concept is discussed, it is referred to as either Occupational Health and Safety Management System or OSH Management System. We use management system. This will be more practical. Management. When the standard uses the concept of management, it is not just the management function of a site, office, or entity. It is the broader concept that encompasses both top-level management and the full range of individuals and responsibilities that may direct the site, office, or entity. Objectives, performance, effectiveness. These terms very often interact with each other. What is important to remember is, objectives are results to be achieved, in relation to a quality policy, for example. Performance is a measurable result, often through indicators, and effectiveness represents the achievement, or not, of the expected results. For example, a safety policy may set objectives, performance measures will evaluate whether or not these objectives are achieved, so it may be concluded that effectiveness is, or is not, achieved. Policy. These are the officially formulated intentions of management. This term is particularly relevant to ISO 45001 because occupational health and safety policy refers to intentions and directions specifically aimed at avoiding work-related injuries and illnesses, providing safe and healthy workplaces. And it is notably on the basis of this policy that the entire management system is based. Risk. These are often potential events or combinations of potential events that are likely to occur. Here we are talking about a notion of uncertainty. They can happen like never before. In the framework of ISO 45001, health and safety risks are the combination of the probability of occurrence of a dangerous event or exposure, with the severity of the injuries and pathologies that may be caused by this event or exposure. Opportunity. This term doesn't sound like much, but since its appearance with the HLS standard, and more particularly with the transition to the 2015 version of major standards such as ISO 9001 and ISO 14001, it has caused quite a bit of ink to flow. Above all, remember that these are opportunities to improve safety performance and, in some cases, reduce risks. Documented information. It's a bit of a complex term to say, quite simply, that it is written information. Processes and procedures.
Ces procédures
Processes are a set of interrelated activities, and procedures are specific descriptions related to an activity or process.
un processus.
For example, a management system may include an improvement process.
J'insiste
I
bien
emphasize that this is an example. There are no requirements in any of the standards to specifically identify that process.
ce processus
This
pourrait
process could include activities such as conducting internal audits, measuring process performance, measuring safety indicators such as workplace accidents, and others.
les accidents du travail et d'autres
More specifically, procedures could describe precisely the practice of internal audits, for example, or the management of corrective actions.
internes, par exemple, ou la gestion des actions de
Compliance or non-compliance.
conformité
This refers to the satisfaction of a requirement, whether this requirement relates to a standard or a purely internal provision.
une disposition
Corrective action. This is an action aimed at eliminating the causes of a non-conformity or an adverse event so that they do not recur.
désirable.
You will see later that the definition of this notion of adverse event.
Définition de cette notion
This
de
definition is much more important than it sounds.
définition est bien plus importante qu'elle
Indeed, when faced with a non-compliance, a problem, even more so when faced with a workplace accident, it is obvious that actions are taken as quickly as possible in order to return to a normal situation.
il faut bien comprendre
However, it must be understood that the corrective action comes in a second phase.
l'action corrective
Once the situation is under control, corrective action requires time for analysis in order to understand the cause of what has happened.
corrective si cela est nécessaire.
Then, and only then, to plan a corrective action if necessary.
Aussi quelques
The ISO 45001 standard also includes some terms that are specific to it. Among those terms are the following: trauma and pathologies. These are the negative effects on a person's physical, mental, or cognitive state. These include occupational diseases, ailments, and deaths. Danger. These are the sources that may cause the very traumas and pathologies we mentioned just before.
événements indésirables.
Unintended events.
Cela fait référence
This refers to an event that either results from work or occurs during work and which can lead to trauma and pathologies.
à des traumatismes et
These are important definitions, and we will now turn to the requirements of ISO 45001.
ISO 45001.